NBA domination begins. Logan unlocks full-level Aomine Daiki skills. Like, share and subscribe. Episode 101. In Logan's history line, the Chicago Bulls' attempt to form a Big Three ultimately failed. The following year, Dwayne Wade's contract was bought out, and Dwayne Wade, who was in a state of extreme decline, returned to the Miami Heat. Rajon Rondo's career at the Chicago Bulls also failed, and he began a turbulent displacement, joining the New Orleans Pelicans and later regaining his life until he joined the Cleveland Cavaliers of LeBron James. However, Jimmy Butler's legendary career officially began because of the failure of the Chicago Bulls' Big Three. If you want to compare Kevin Lowe's career with Jimmy Butler, although Kevin Lowe has won the rebounding king, has an average of 30 plus 30 per game, and has won a championship ring under the leadership of LeBron James, it is not worth mentioning compared to Jimmy Butler's legend. If you say that Kevin Lowe's career was more successful than Jimmy Butler because of the championship ring, it is estimated that Kevin Lowe will be ashamed to drill under the floor. Jimmy Butler, first traded to the Timberwolves after the breakup of the Chicago Bulls. At the time, the Timberwolves already had two all-star level rising stars, Anthony Downs and Andrew Wiggins, but these two couldn't bring the Timberwolves into the playoffs. Because of Jimmy Butler's age and experience, Anthony Downs nominally recognized Jimmy Butler as the team's boss. After trading with the Timberwolves, Jimmy Butler immediately really put out the boss shelf and entered the playoffs with the Ming-suited Timberwolves, who had not tasted the playoffs for many years. However, because he was not accustomed to the future of the team, the absolute main players Anthony Downs and Andrew Wiggins made some remarks on the defensive end day after day of laziness. Jimmy Butler said, "The future of the team is yours, but you should get right now. And if you're still so lazy, let me lead the team, and the future is definitely not just about the playoffs." Andrew Wiggins, despite his laziness, was generally mild-tempered, and after listening to it, he agreed with Jimmy Butler that it made sense. However, he agreed with his lips, and in practice, he was still so lazy. Anthony Downs is not so good-tempered. He listened to it, of course, angry. Lao Tzu is the champion, is an all-star averaging 20 plus 10 per game, is the future and absolute main force of the Timberwolves of Minnesota. You are a 30-pick rookie is something. Having fallen out with the future star of the Timberwolves, Jimmy Butler was traded to the Philadelphia 76ers. In the Philadelphia 76ers, Jimmy Butler magically reappeared, he and the great Embiid, and then with the Philadelphia 76ers, almost reached the Eastern Conference Finals, but unfortunately was paralyzed Kawhi Leonard in the last second of the seven. It seems that this is just an ordinary Eastern Conference semifinal loss. After all, at that time, everyone tacitly agreed that this season's championship has long been the five-star Golden State Warriors. But no one knows what a tragic opportunity the Golden State Warriors fell into. As we all know, that year's finals Western Conference champions Golden State Warriors were miserable. The team's absolute main player, Kevin Durant, was unfortunately injured in the Western Conference semifinals, causing the opponent Houston Rockets to be paralyzed and directly began to celebrate, ready to enjoy the fun of reaching the finals. The Houston Rockets believe that the Golden State Warriors without Kevin Durant cannot be their opponents, and the opponent in the Western Conference Finals has decided that it is Lillard's Portland Trail Blazers, and the Houston Rockets playing the Portland Blazers has always been very confident. As a result, the Houston Rockets carelessly lost Jingzhou and were defeated by the Golden State Warriors led by Stephen Curry and Klay Thompson. The Golden State Warriors reached the Western Conference Finals against Lillard's Portland Blazers. The Portland Blazers led by Lillard had the same idea, the Golden State Warriors without Kevin Durant, where their opponents were. They may have forgotten that the year before that, the Golden State Warriors without Kevin Durant had won 73, breaking the Chicago Bulls' years-old regular season win record. The Portland Trail Blazers, led by Lillard, were shaved by the Golden State Warriors in the Western Conference Finals, hit a 4-0, and went home fishing in a disgraced manner. By the time of the finals, no one dared to despise the Golden State Warriors without Kevin Durant, and they all knew that the 73-win Golden State Warriors had returned. The Toronto Raptors, who added Kawhi Leonard, are obviously not as strong as the Cleveland Cavaliers who reversed the 73-win Warriors that year, and everyone is still more optimistic about the Golden State Warriors. As a result, Golden State Warriors' second boss Klay Thompson was injured in the finals, with a torn cruciate ligament in his knee. Even Stephen Curry and Rooney are also injured. 4 of the team's 5 main players are injured, and the only one who is not injured is the lack of companion cooperation, and there is no use for Draymond Green. This kind of lineup, no matter which team in the East plays the Golden State Warriors in the finals, it is bound to win. After the game, the media was full of regrets. If it were not for the 7 kills by Kawhi Leonard, then the final championship may be the Philadelphia 76ers. It can be said that Jimmy Butler only barely won the first championship of his life. Later, Jimmy Butler did not choose to renew his contract with the Philadelphia 76ers, leaving the Philadelphia 76ers this time to join the Miami Heat. This time, Jimmy Butler's performance, it is even more shocking. Before the start of the season, everyone thinks that the Miami Heat are basically running to sign. As a result, Jimmy Butler took the Miami Heat, which was full of veterans and rookies, to play fifth in the East. However, Jimmy Butler's shocking saga has only just begun. In the first round of the playoffs, they faced the return of star Oladipo, the fourth Indiana Pacers in the East. The strength of the two sides is already almost the same, and Oladipo is also in general form after his return, and the bookmakers predict that the Miami Heat may be on the line. However, the dealer did not expect that the Miami Heat's direct opponent was called Falling Flowers, shaved a big bald head of the Indiana Pacers 4-0, and simply and neatly broke into the second round of the playoffs. Episode 102. The Miami Heat's opponent in the Eastern Conference semifinals is the league's #1 player, with MVP and DPOY, a double-team member of the Milwaukee Bucks. What is the concept of MVP also being a DPOY and at the same time a double band member? So far, there are only 3 people in the league, and they have achieved these 4 honors in a single season. Brother Alphabet is, of course, one of them. The other one, Michael Jordan, yes, you read that right, is the basketball god Michael Jordan. There was another man who claimed that Michael Jordan has never beaten me in his life, and his name was Hakeem Olajuwon. That's right, the same big dream that Michael Jordan wore in the 2 years after he retired from the championship ring, Hakeem Olajuwon. And the Alphabet brother is the 3rd person in history, which shows the strength of the Alphabet brother. At the time, all the media and bookmakers thought the Miami Heat's journey was over. As a result, Jimmy Butler led the Miami Heat and performed a miracle. They simply and neatly defeated the Milwaukee Bucks with the MVP Alphabet brother 4-1, and the Milwaukee Bucks' only victory, or in the absence of the Alphabet brother, was really playing the Alphabet brothers' MVP's face. After the game, the media criticized various words, saying that the Alphabet brother was the most watery MVP in history. Then, in the Eastern Conference Finals, they defeated the Boston Celtics, who had double scouts. Having defeated the Milwaukee Bucks with MVP letters, and the Boston Celtics, which have a bunch of potential rookies, the Miami Heat have reached the finals again after many years. The last time the Miami Heat reached the finals was during the LeBron James triumvirate. In the finals, it was only in the first game that the Miami Heat's main point guard Goran Dragic and the main center Adebayo left the court injured. The Miami Heat, which lacked main point guard Goran Dragic and main center Adebayo, eventually lost to the Los Angeles Lakers led by LeBron James and brother Bush Anthony Davis after 6 games. However, Jimmy Butler won the super triple-double of 30+ twice in those 6 games, helping the team to 2 victories over the Los Angeles Lakers and stunning. If Kevin Lowe knew that Jimmy Butler would have achieved this in the future, it is estimated that even his jaw would fall off. However, at this moment, Kevin Lowe is also right, and Jimmy Butler at this time is not the legendary Jimmy Butler. His later commendable ability to control the ball, at the moment can only be said to be general. The breakthrough means are also mostly a breakthrough after the left-hand layup. Experienced players are very good defense. As for the 3-point shooting rate is also very general, but not the later Logan history line of Jimmy Butler. You don't understand. LeBron James said meaningfully, he's going to be a striker in the organization who is not inferior to me at all, and our squad is complete. Kevin Lowe stared at LeBron James for a long time, and since LeBron James said so, he could only believe it. Okay. Top dog. Kevin Lowe said, how did you come up with the idea of trading this guy over? I don't know. LeBron James put his hands together and said, it feels like a flash of inspiration in my head, telling me that I need this person, and then I try to trade this person over, and I don't know what the hell is going on. Kevin Love stared at LeBron James for a long time, and you're talking about the book of heaven. LeBron James's expression is very sincere, indicating that what I say is true, believe it or not, it is up to you. Kevin Lowe certainly doesn't believe it, even though Jimmy Butler at the moment is far less important than Kevin Lowe, and he is also an all-star fringe player, and the deal for an all-star fringe player depends on your whim, which is incredible. But now that Jimmy Butler had arrived, he could only believe it wasn't. At this moment, neither LeBron James, nor Kevin Lowe, nor even Jimmy Butler, knew that the butterfly effect had happened. As a result of Rogan's crossing, a powerful dragon warrior Rogan came out of nowhere, interfering with this historical line of this plane, and many things in this historical line have changed. To correct the history line against the mighty Rogan, the plane law will give some players the inspiration to forge a terrible roster to counter Rogan's Los Angeles Lakers. But how exactly do you trade? Kevin Love, curious about the specifics of the deal, the Chicago Bulls already have Dwayne Wade and Rajon Rondo, and it's no use for them to want Thomas Jr. How do you sell Thomas Jr. and don't trade them off? LeBron James smiled mysteriously and said, I'm too lazy to say it now, but in an hour you'll know the details of the deal. An hour later, sure enough, the news of the deal was settled. What happened this season is a little different from what is on Rogan's history line. This season, the Atlanta Hawks, with a poor record, are so disappointed with Dwight Howard's performance that they see no hope of winning the championship. So the Atlanta Hawks decided to start rebuilding, pulling the Chicago Bulls and Sacramento Kings and the Cleveland Cavaliers into a 4-way deal. The Cleveland Cavaliers were just out of reach, so they immediately began trading, sending Thomas Jr. and Claude to the Chicago Bulls in exchange for Jimmy Butler. The Chicago Bulls certainly don't need Thomas Jr. After all, they already have two super guards, Rajon Rondo and Dwayne Wade. Then the Chicago Bulls left Claude to replace Jimmy Butler, a player they needed. Then the Chicago Bulls sent Thomas Jr. and a trade exception plus a draft pick to the Atlanta Hawks in exchange for the super big three of Dwight Howard, who has been plagued by injuries who have played poorly this season, and Rajon Rondo Wade guard Dwight Howard. Even though Dwight Howard has played very mediocrely this season and has been plagued by injuries, the skinny camel is bigger than the horse, and maybe he has moved the dead to live in the Bulls. The Atlanta Hawks sent Thomas Jr. to the Salta Kings in exchange for 2 future draft picks, and Thomas Jr. returned to his parent team, the Sarasta Kings, to assist DeMarcus Cousins. Episode 103. This 4-way deal also brought a big butterfly effect to the events in this historical line where Logan was located. In Logan's history line, DeMarcus Cousins, who was very dissatisfied with the team's record, decisively left his parent team Sacramento Kings after this season to join the New Orleans Pelicans, and thick-eyebrow Anthony Davis to form the Super Twin Towers. The New Orleans Pelicans at the time, with all-league top point guard Rajon Rondo, all-star shooting guard Julie Holiday, all-star double first big forward thick-eyebrow brother Anthony Davis, all-star super center DeMarcus Cousins. This lineup is unceremoniously more terrifying than the Houston Rockets Twin Towers and San Antonio Spurs Twin Towers, which won the NBA championship that year. As soon as this kind of lineup appeared, everyone recognized that it was a championship-winning lineup, and the two big thorns, Rajon Rondo and DeMarcus Cousins, got along very well with the other players on this team. There was no contradiction, and the atmosphere of the team was very good. After all, brother thick eyebrows Anthony Davis and Jrue Holiday are both known for their good temper and play completely unobtrusive. Logically, the chemistry and paper lineup of this team are simply invincible. As a result, this lineup only barely made it to the playoffs, and it was eliminated in the first round of the playoffs. The main pot, of course, is the head coach Gentry to back. Everyone recognizes that this is the problem of the coach's coaching ability. As Shaq O'Neal put it, even if my grandma brings this New Orleans Pelicans, she can bring this New Orleans Pelicans into the playoffs. DeMarcus Cousins was also in the playoffs, suffering a ruptured Achilles tendon, and his career was almost over, with losses of at least hundreds of millions of dollars. And now, because of the addition of Thomas Jr., DeMarcus Cousins decided to stay in the team. After all, Thomas Jr. is last season's MVP selection, ranked 4th player, is also a strong reinforcement, and the Sacramento Kings perhaps promised to add more powerful teammates to DeMarcus Cousins. The rumor that DeMarcus Cousins may want to transfer to the New Orleans Pelicans, and thick-browed brother Anthony Davis to form a super twin tower, ends here. With the end of this rumor, next, the rumor about the thick-eyebrow brother Anthony Davis will be unfolded. At this time, Logan was in the training hall, sweating like a rain. In terms of training, Logan has never been lazy, although he has the top talent of Chingfeng Dahue. In the manga, although Aomine Daiki has top talent, he is the hardest trained one in the Age of Miracles. Every day, Chingfeng Dahue was the first to come to the training hall and the last to leave. Beneath Chingfeng Dahue's icy and uninhibited exterior was a diligent and fiery heart. And so is Logan at this moment, who is constantly practicing his skills. Today, Logan was practicing three-pointers, and he shot a three-pointer when no one was on guard. Logan then made another second shot, and then he retreated 2 steps from the three-point line and continued to shoot three-pointers. This three-pointer, just like Logan's imagination, hit easily. His little brother Angelo Russell was nearby, grinning as Logan practiced his three-pointer. Angelo Russell certainly felt that his three-pointers were stronger than Logan's, because Logan rarely shot three-pointers in the game. When no one was defending in training, shooting a three-pointer, Angelo Russell felt nothing was great. After all, when no one is on the defense, even Dwight Howard and Ben Wallace can shoot consecutive three-pointers, which is a video proof. He suddenly remembered something and said to Logan, "By the way, there was a trade. Thomas Jr. was traded to the Sacramento Kings, and Jimmy Butler joined the Cleveland Cavaliers." Logan nodded. He had heard the Cleveland Cavaliers move. Jimmy Butler turned back to the Cleveland Cavaliers. Jimmy Butler, Logan said solemnly, "This man is not easy to deal with. After all, he is a man who can match the emperor." Angelo Russell was eating peanuts, and when he heard it, he was so frightened that the peanut shells fell to the ground. What, Jimmy Butler, can actually match the emperor LeBron James? Logan's head is not broken. Logan snapped his tongue. His head certainly wasn't broken. How could Angelo Russell know? This was Jimmy Butler, the man who had led the team alone to the finals in his history line. But at the moment, Logan, that is fearless. Even if Michael Jordan comes, he is not afraid, let alone Jimmy Butler. At the moment, Logan was experimenting with his own three-point shot. Somehow, by throwing three-pointers, Logan knew he still had some accuracy, at least above the league average. However, when shooting, there is always a slight sense of violation. This is probably due to the fact that the black and blue system used by himself is currently the reason for opening the Chingfeng Dahue mode. Chingfeng Dahue is a man who can open the zone. When he wants to shoot three-pointers, he can still shoot, but Chingfeng Dahue does not like to shoot three-pointers at all. so Logan will also have this small sense of violation when shooting. Logan temporarily gave up training for three-pointers, and he was doing confrontational training with his teammates. Suddenly, there was a clanging in my head, and a message came from the system. It will let you experience Shintaro Midorima's three-point magic for free, 5 minutes. After this message came, the system stopped making a sound. Frightened, Logan couldn't help but be taken aback. When was this miserly system so kind as to allow himself to experience this feeling for free? Is it to see yourself shooting three-pointers, and the degree of diligence has touched the system? However, the time is a little short, and the experience time is only 5 minutes. It's only 5 minutes, but it's also about to come and experience it hard. Logan picked up the ball, walked beyond the three-point line, and quickly ordered Wardang and Angelo Russell to come over. Angelo Russell understood and said, "Boss, are you training your three-point skills?" Logan nodded and said, "You're in charge of defense." Angelo Russell said happily, "Boss, don't worry, I won't release water, I'll defend you viciously." Only to hear Logan think for a moment and say, "It's not you, you two are defending me." 2 steps away from the three-point line. Episode 104. Angelo Russell got a Coke and said, "Boss, what are you going to do, shooting so far away? Are you going to transform into Stephen Curry?" You know, Logan has never been a three-point shooter, and three-pointers are a small percentage of Logan's attack. Therefore, the current M-country media, more pro-dragon country media, but there are also M-country media that are not pleasing to the eye. And even looking at Logan is not pleasing to the eye. Some of these ill-intentioned M-countries media have made a big fuss about Logan not throwing 3 points, and even compared him to Simmons, who does not shoot 3 points all year round. In fact, Logan will still shoot 1 or 2 three-pointers on average per game, and the shooting rate is still good. Simmons, who has shot fewer than 10 three-pointers in the whole year and has a shooting percentage of 0, is clearly deliberately insulting Logan compared to Logan. Logan thought it was time to fight back against these media, and at this moment, he had to experience the power of Midorima's shooting skills. Of course, Angelo Russell didn't know that Logan had turned on Shimotaro Midorima's shooting system at this moment. Angelo Russell's outside defense is good, and at this moment, he can't help but be happy to see Logan challenge his outside defense 2 steps outside the three-point line, and to drag Wardang. Although Wardang is old, but the sick tiger, but also once had minions, he was one of the best outside defenders of the year. "Boss," Wardang also said, "You can't eat or not." Logan snorted and said, "Les, tell you to defend, you defend." Angelo Russell and Roar Dunner lazily came over to defend, and Wardang signaled Angelo Russell to go first and assist himself in the defense. Angelo Russell was on the line, but he didn't defend closely, but very ordinary face-to-face Logan. Logan knew in his heart that Angelo Russell still looked down on his three-point shooting skills in his eyes. It seems that it will soon be possible to teach this little brother who does not know the height of the sky and the thickness of the earth, only to see Logan skillfully dribble the ball under 2 crotches, facing Angelo Russell's defense, suddenly jumping, brushing the ground as a dry three-pointer. The shot was so fast that Angelo Russell didn't even have time to make a defensive move. Angelo Russell couldn't help but be surprised. This posture is beautiful. The league recognizes that the most beautiful shooting posture is Kobe Bryant. The iron is picturesque. No, it is a picturesque shooting. In addition to Kobe Bryant, the best posture in shooting is Tracy McGrady, a beautiful dry shot that has no opponents in the league. Angelo Russell, of course, is a fan of these 2 players with picturesque shooting positions. And Logan's flowing and elegant posture makes Angelo Russell look almost drunk. And the elegance of this posture is not inferior to Kobe Bryant and Tracy McGrady. However, he didn't feel the goal was going to be scored. Although his own defense did not do his best, it was still different from no defense at all. But it's impossible that the ball will go in. It's 2 steps away from the three-point line, even Stephen Curry. Angelo Russell had just thought of it when he heard the sound of splashes of water. Stephen Curry and Klay Thompson are called Splash Brothers because the three-pointers they throw are almost all hollow into the net, and the three-pointers that are hollow into the net will make this strange sound similar to splashing. Angelo Russell is also an expert. He doesn't have to look back, and if you listen with your ears, you can tell that the ball must have been scored. The ball rolled back slowly, and Logan picked it up with his foot and held it back in his hand. "Old top dog." Angelo Russell stuttered nervously. "When did you learn this three-point magic skill?" "No," Logan said domineeringly. "I only have 5 minutes to practice with you. Do you want to go to a nightclub?" "Think." Angelo Russell didn't even think about it. He instinctively blurted out, and when he finished blurting out, he found that it was not right, and quickly said, "I don't want to think about it. I think about how to concentrate on training, and the technology will be to a higher level." Logan sneered in his heart, "You are a fart." Angelo Russell, the big sex ghost's flower heart, is famous. He changed a full 6 girlfriends in a year, is also a regular at nightclubs, and is not much better than the little prince of nightclubs, James Harden. "I can invite you to a nightclub for free," Logan said. Angelo Russell was overjoyed. After all, he actually did not have a lot of money. Compared to Logan, who had a contract of hundreds of millions of dollars from Nike, he was still far behind. "I only shoot 3-pointers in those 5 minutes, and you try to defend me once in those 5 minutes." Logan said, "As long as you can prevent me from getting a three-pointer, I'll take you to a free nightclub." Angelo Russell was overjoyed when he heard this, and quickly said, "Is this true? We dragon people never lie." Logan said loudly, "Good boss." Angelo Russell said, "Boss, I'm going up." At this point, Angelo Russell did not dare to be sloppy. Where did he dare to use the lazy defense just now? And immediately stepped forward to press Logan. One of his long arms swung up and down, limiting Logan's dribbles to where he could shoot three-pointers at will. At the same time, Luer Deng also raised his spirits and immediately attacked from the side. He also saw that Logan's state today was a bit extraordinary. Only to see Logan dribble twice, suddenly break through quickly. Angelo Russell's defense is not slow. Immediately came over to jam the position against Logan. Logan immediately put his shoulder on Angelo Russell, and then, suddenly, a straight break. In fact, Angelo Russell has basically stood in his position, and Logan is equivalent to using his physical fitness to forcibly rub Angelo Russell to break through. He didn't quite break through, and half of his body was still hanging on Angelo Russell's body, but Logan, without even a moment's hesitation, shot a three-pointer before Luer Deng arrived. This is exactly the famous stunt of Qing Feng Dahui in the comic, irregular shooting. Angelo Russell has also seen Logan use this stunt many times in the game, but it is all two-point shots. As for shooting three-pointers with this stunt, even Angelo Russell saw it for the first time. The goal shouldn't have been scored, Angelo Russell thought, but his ears immediately heard the sound of splashing water. Three-pointers, hollow into the net again. Episode 105. Angelo Russell was scared to the core. What is going on? How can Logan even score such a ball? The first ball, which can also be said to be Angelo Russell's feeling that Logan would not shoot three-pointers, was caused by defensive negligence. But Angelo Russell is a top-notch rookie, and after seeing the power of Logan's first ball, he has completely overturned his judgment and knows that his original judgment was wrong. That is, Logan not only shoots three-pointers, but also a three-pointer master, and his three-point shooting skills are even above his own. As for why Logan has not shot many three-pointers so far, Angelo Russell does not know why, but the fact that Logan is a good three-pointer may be indisputable. Angelo Russell, immediately after the first defensive failure, made a mental judgment on Logan's strength. What is the approximate level of this person? Cold Noodles, Killer Korver's level? No, Korver's ability is limited to positioned empty three-pointers, and the level of three-pointers in sports is actually average. Like Logan's athletic ability that seems to be idle and strolled, but actually connects with three-point shots immediately after a quick dribble, he can beat Kyle Korver dozens of streets in a second. The level of basketball god Michael Jordan? Basketball god Michael Jordan is at an average three-point shooting level, and he has only hit 5 three-pointers in his career, creating the darkest moment of the worst record in history. Kobe Bryant or Tracy McGrady? Their three-pointers were sharp, but, strictly speaking, these two are not three-pointers, and their average three-point shooting rate per game is also average, but the more critical the moment, the more accurate their big heart three-pointers, such as the famous Maddie moment. It is somewhat inappropriate to put them in a three-point shooter. Big Bird, Larry Bird? His situation is similar to the previous two. He is very famous, but in fact, his career three-point shooting rate is only about 37%. But the more he reaches the critical moment, the more accurate he is. At that moment, Angelo Russell's feeling was that this man's three-pointers were strong, very strong, close to the level of Klay Thompson in the league's #1 3D guard, the Splash Brothers. Klay Thompson and Splash Brothers, with Angelo Russell's ability, of course, he can't defend. So he had done his best to defend, but after this defense, Angelo Russell immediately reversed his conclusions. At the moment, Klay Thompson is completely out of Angelo Russell's eyes. What Forlun League first 3D, compared to Logan, is not worth mentioning. The Logan in front of him is definitely not only the level of Klay Thompson and the Splash Brothers. There are only 3 people who can match Logan's 3 breakups. The legend of the Indiana horse race, team logo Reggie Miller, 5 seconds to reverse 8 points of Miller moment and Maddie moment are equally famous. Former all-time three-point king Ray Allen drew with the San Antonio Spurs in the final 3.2 seconds to help LeBron James win his first championship. And now the new three-point king, the league's first three-point master, claimed to be able to shoot anywhere in the halftime. The only all-round MVP in history, Stephen Curry. Angelo Russell is a genius teenager, but he is not an idiot and fool who will be frightened by a few flowery actions of others. He gave Logan such a high opinion for his own reasons. In theory, this defense of Angelo Russell is very successful for any outside shooter. This ball, he is completely defensive in place, and finally forced Logan to give up the use of shooting picturesque shooting posture, using irregular shooting shots, next to Luer Deng, also quickly rushed to the assistant defense in place, only one step away from being able to interfere with Logan. Normally, being able to interfere with opposing players to the use of irregular shots is a very successful defense. If it was an ordinary outside shooter, I am afraid that it would have been a mistake by Angelo Russell's defense. Even an outside shooter like LeBron James, who doesn't have enough crosshairs, is sure to at least miss a shot. Unfortunately, Angelo Russell was defending Logan. Logan is probably the player in the league who uses irregular shots the most, who called him the ability to shine with Qingfeng. His irregular shooting, but many times selected as the top 5 balls of the day, the top 5 balls of the weekend, and the top 5 balls of the month, everyone has been recognized, and the best shot of the year is also Logan's. Many people are looking forward to what kind of wonderful performance Logan, a monster who can fly in the sky, will contribute to this season's annual Dunk All-Star plug. You know, Logan is a super monster that can even hit the strange shot with his back almost flush with the ground. He also used to shoot directly from behind the rebound, stunning. Angelo Russell just let Logan shoot by people, and this level of obstruction, for Logan, is just a simple irregular shot. The terrible defense that Logan faced, compared to this horror, I don't know how many there are, not 1,000 but also 10,000. In the end, under this light confrontation, Logan's three-pointer still scored, and just now, Angelo Russell was in a hurry, and there was a little pushing. If you are strict, this is a standard 3+1, and you have to add a penalty. Angelo Russell, already sweating at the moment. Reggie Miller and Ray Allen are too far from Angelo Russell's time, and the only person he has ever played directly against is Stephen Curry, the three-point king of the Golden State Warriors. In that game, Stephen Curry also shot randomly from all angles in all parts of the court, completely blowing up Angelo Russell. However, Logan's action even Stephen Cooley cannot do. Angelo Russell is 100% sure this person is the strongest three-point king in history. At this moment, Logan's heart was simply ecstatic. He originally thought that the ability given by the system might be slightly different from that in the comics. Now it seems that this three-point ability is really the same as in the comics. As long as you shoot anywhere in the half, you can shoot. He also thought that the system would give a discount to the ability. It seems there is no discount at all. The three-point shooting rate is very stable. This miserly system, this time there is no pit to themselves. Indeed, there are good things for themselves. Moreover, this ability is only a few points stronger than Shintaro Midorima himself in the manga. Episode 106. Shintaro Midorima in the manga can indeed shoot a three-pointer anywhere in the game. Even with the opposing side tightly defended, Shintaro Midorima can shoot a three-pointer. But Shintaro Midorima's three-pointer is also limited. Have you noticed that Shintaro Midorima always shoots in a shooting posture similar to Kobe Bryant, that kind of picturesque posture? This proves that Shintaro Midorima, shooting some three-pointers, still has to have a period of charging CD time. This charging time is Shintaro Midorima in adjusting his shooting posture, to make his shooting posture as perfect as possible, in order to be able to shoot shots. This means that if there is a super strong defender, such as Daiki Aomine and Vulcan Daiki, who can interfere with Shintaro Midorima's shooting movements and make him unable to form a perfect shooting posture, it can make Shintaro Midorima's shot unhit. In fact, the Vulcan Daigo in the manga did use this method to interfere with Shintaro Midorima's three-pointer and let his three-pointer miss his hand. But if this situation is put on Logan, it will not work. You know, Logan already has the ability of Qingfeng Dahue, able to use a variety of irregular shooting positions, without scruples. That is, Logan can use the shooting posture of Aomine Daiki, and then use the ability of Shintaro Midorima to shoot three-pointers anywhere in the halftime. This is also good. This is simply invincible in the world. Even if you form an effective defense against Logan and make his shooting posture particularly awkward, Logan still has a way to shoot a shot. And Logan also has a useless trump card, that is, Qingfeng Dahui's zone ability. Now, Logan has not yet tried what the consequences of using Shintaro Midorima's ability to shoot three-pointers at halftime with zone turned on have happened. But he knew that if he shot three-pointers at the same time when he opened the zone, he would definitely have a higher accuracy and shooting rate. After all, in the manga special, after Huang Sei's entry into the zone, he used a flawless imitation and instantly became the most powerful character on the field. Moreover, there is a new discovery. After the system opens the experience version of Midorima's Shintaro ability, the little sense of violation when Logan shoots the basket automatically disappears. Sure enough, shooting a three-pointer, you still have to have the ability of Shintaro Midorima, a specialized three-point shooter, so that there will be no sense of violation. Logan is full of confidence now. There has always been a famous saying, that is, the two-dimensional character is the most powerful. You take the three-dimensional character and the two-dimensional character more than the ability, that is called a self-inflicted humiliation. However, today's Logan has actually surpassed the characters in the manga, the three-point marksman Shintaro Midorima. This is no longer a feat that no one has ever achieved since the founding of the Alliance. It can be said that it is the greatest feat since the birth of mankind. Is it still something that humans can do to surpass the author's ability to create comics? Logan only felt the frenzy in his heart, and he had to keep shooting to vent his super excitement, and Angelo Russell, unfortunately, was going to be the target of venting. Come again. Logan domineeringly instructed Angelo Russell, as long as you can stop me once, I'll take you to a free nightclub. Angelo Russell now had no idea of nightclubs in his mind. However, his competitive spirit was directly aroused, and in any case, he had to defend Logan once. Even if you face the empty space of the air three-point shot is not 100% hit, and now your own defense has no effect, that is not to say that your defense is not even as good as air. Without saying a word, Angelo Russell went straight forward and wrapped his hands around Logan, waving his hands so fast that he almost wrapped himself around Logan's waist. Deng, also not defending from the flanks, he went straight forward and defended Logan from the front. At this moment, Deng is also full of momentum, feeling that he is dreaming back to that year, and he is the top outside defender who was personally designated by Kobe Bryant. Logan's strength brought out the potential of the two defenders in front of him. This defense can really only be described by the copper wall and the iron wall. At this moment, there is no gap in front of Logan to give him a shot, and the space for shooting is completely choked by Angelo Russell and Worden, two top outside defenders. But now that Logan has super self-confidence, you can't give me space, I'll create my own space. Faced with Angelo Russell and Dunmi's impermeable defense, Logan's footsteps are a small move that looks like a step-like action. Angelo Russell and Deng had sharp eyes, and they immediately shouted at the same time, "Oops. It's a step backwards." Yes, in the face of the brass wall in front of him, Logan immediately took a step backwards and created the maximum shooting space. Yeah, when there's no space, I can use the backstash to create shooting space for myself. As long as there are no players defending in the back, it is simply an invincible existence. Because, for Logan, it is equivalent to being lazy in the place of the point guard. You say that the farther away you are lazy, the hit rate will be difficult to guarantee? Haha, there is no such thing. There is the invincible three-point ability of the green arrow Shintaro-in. This is not a thing. Sure enough, a few seconds after Logan raised his hand to shoot the three-pointer, Angelo Russell's ears heard the splashing sound again. Oh my god, in Angelo Russell and Dun's ears, this sound is a nightmare. I don't listen. Logan couldn't have used the backstep three-point shot all the time, Angelo Russell thought. So he motioned to Deng not to lose confidence, so he joined him in frontal defense of Logan, and I didn't believe that your retreat three-point step could still hit 100%. When Logan saw Angelo Russell's performance, it was a slight smile and another step back three-pointer. With a sound of brushing the ground, the water splashed around, and the 3 points were hollow into the net. Angelo Russell was not dead set and continued to defend Logan in the same defensive way. The retreat step 3 points reappears in the Jianghu, and it is a familiar 3 points into the net. 3 consecutive ultra-long-range retreat steps, all 3-pointers. Logan was ruthless, firing at his teammates. He was comfortable, but it hurt Angelo Russell, and his poor self-confidence was shattered. Angelo Russell had a heart full of death, and he immediately signaled Deng to defend Logan. Episode 107. Deng looked at Angelo Russell and thought to yourself, if you are neurotic, young man, what is the circle defense? Generally only heard of the front defense. Angelo Russell said, I don't have any nerves. I just told you to go around behind him and defend. Logan said that now I am more certain that you are a neurotic, and for the first time in my life I have heard that you have to go around behind others to defend. Logan has nothing to steal at this time. Others have indeed never seen it, this kind of thing. But Logan has seen it, he has crossed. In fact, the technology of retreating to 3 points has long existed, and it was not invented by Logan. In Logan's historical line, Logan is not a league superstar, really carry forward the retreat step 3-pointer, the first master of the retreat step 3-pointer, the best person to use the retreat step 3-pointer, is the Houston Rockets general James Harden. For a while, James Harden retreated to take 3 points and was able to get 5 or 60 points per game. At that time, the Houston Rockets faced the league's first defensive Utah Jazz, and it was widely believed that the Utah Jazz's defense could create a little trouble for James Harden. As a result, this kind of thing did not happen at all, and James Harden faced the Utah Jazz, who had the sharpest defense in the league and the most valuable defensive player, still frequently retreated to the 3-point step and frequently hit the ball. The Utah Jazz were forced to do nothing but put Rubio behind James Harden to defend, so that once James Harden used the backstep 3-pointer, it was either a foul or a step error. Of course, James Harden is not a fool. You go behind me to defend, it is equivalent to wasting a defender. I do not have to retreat to step back for 3 points. I cannot directly play 5-4. Running behind others to defend, this is also the first time in the history of the league since the creation of the league that there is such a thing as a defense around the back, which can be described as a beautiful scenery of the league. But this also shows that the defender is forced to what point it will use this kind of defensive method that wastes a defender. Now Angelo Russell was forced to have no choice but to let Deng go around behind Logan and defend around the back. Deng thought about it, but still obeyed Angelo Russell's command and ran around the back to defend. Thus, because Deng restricted Logan's rear, Logan could not use the retreat step for 3 points. However, Logan said that it was not okay to step back, but I could move forward. Aren't you now back to Angelo Russell alone in defending me? Angelo Russell's ability, where is the way to defend me successfully? I saw Logan's footsteps gently swaying left and right, with a little seemingly moving back and forth, but in fact, the footsteps did not move at all. It was a cross step. Logan simply repeated this 2 or 3 times, and between the shaking of his steps, Angelo Russell was already dizzy. Several times, Angelo Russell felt that his ankles were about to collapse, and he had a strong will to barely fall. This is the superstar of the past, the answer to the fame of Allen Iverson. At that time, the answer Allen Iverson was famous for his solo cross step in the world, even though there were internal meat shields everywhere. But there was still no inner line that Allen Iverson could not break through. Later, even the league changed the rules of joint defense, allowing for a certain degree of use of joint defense against players. Everyone believes that this rule is changed to weaken the deterrent power of Allen Iverson's breakthrough, because no matter what level of player you are, if you want to defend Allen Iverson alone, there is no way to defend. Today's Logan has the ability, technology, and speed frequency of Chingfeng Dahui, all above Allen Iverson, and the strength of the cross step is even greater than that of Allen Iverson. Chingfeng Dahui's ability allowed Logan to even make some terrible moves. Chingfeng Dahui's ability is not only irregular when shooting, but even the footsteps when moving are irregular. His steps, many times, are to stand up the soles of his feet horizontally, using the edges of the soles of his feet to support the center of gravity of the entire body, looking like he is going to fall, but in fact he will not fall. This action normal human beings simply cannot do, because if normal people use the edge of the sole of the foot to support the center of gravity of the entire body, Logan's weight is as high as 200 pounds, such a huge weight, normal humans will immediately fall down. This is simply out of the category of basketball players, and it is an action that can only be made by acrobats. Angelo Russell would of course be tricked and pounce in the direction where Logan was looking to fall. But the moment Angelo Russell started, Logan immediately moved in the opposite direction of Angelo Russell's movement. This action is even more shocking. Normal people can use the edge of the foot to support the center of gravity of the entire body is not easy. Logan can even use the edge of the foot to directly exert force, high-speed movement in the opposite direction. This is no longer an action that an acrobat can make, but an action beyond the scope of human beings. If Allen Iverson saw such a cross step, he would definitely be out of reach, and he would have to kneel on the spot to worship Logan as a master. I saw Logan take an arrow step, easily passing Angelo Russell like a wooden stake. Angelo Russell was in a hurry and reached for Logan's jersey. This kind of action is actually very dangerous. Just imagine, a basketball player, with a normal person can use the edge of the foot to support the center of gravity of the entire body, while moving at high speed. You go to pull people's jerseys, get it bad, will make a terrible injury such as a torn Achilles tendon. But at this point, Angelo Russell was bent on stopping Logan, and he couldn't care less about it, and he didn't think about these consequences in his mind. Angelo Russell actually pulled Logan's jersey, but Logan still made a decisive three-pointer when he was pulled on the jersey and his body might lose his balance. This three-point shooting action, Logan did not even use Chingfeng Dahui's unique, irregular shooting ability, quite simply, because at this time, his body is not in an irregular state of imbalance at all. As long as he uses Shintaro Midorima's three-point ability, normal projection can be done. Because when Angelo Russell pulled Logan's jersey, because Logan's strength was too great, not only failed to throw Logan's body out of balance, but he was already shaken by the cross step, and he accidentally fell to the ground. Episode 108. Angelo Russell fell not lightly, and he fell to the ground with his fingers covered in pain. Logan's strength was so great that he didn't pull on Logan's jersey, which was like a knife scraping his fingers. Then, Angelo Russell couldn't help but wonder if this shot was in or not. Over there, the sound of splashes of water resounded, as if to satirize Angelo Russell's incompetence. Logan quickly ran over and asked his little brother with concern, "Is your finger all right?" On the one hand, he is concerned about Angelo Russell. On the other hand, he is also afraid that Russell's finger injury will affect the value of the transaction. Angelo Russell looked at his own fingers, grandma's, pulled on someone else's jersey, but was dragged to the ground by the force of the other party, and almost injured his finger. What a shameful thing. This kind of thing can't be passed on. Angelo Russell hurriedly said, "It's all right, it's all right." In order to pretend to be fine, he also laughed and shook his fingers wildly, just as Uncle Mutombo often did. In fact, Angelo Russell is a swollen face to support the fat man. He obviously has 10 fingers and heartache, and he forcibly braced himself to say that it was okay. At this point, Angelo Russell understood one thing. That is, Logan is a super three-point master. His judgment is correct. Logan's three-point ability, at least equal to the league's three-point king Stephen Curry. Because even Stephen Curry can't show such a perfect cross-step. Stephen Curry's breakthrough is also very sharp, and it is precisely because Stephen Curry's breakthrough is sharp, so the other side does not dare to use unlimited close-range defense against Stephen Curry, and he can get so many three-point opportunities. A guard who can only shoot 3 points and has no ability to control the ball and break is actually very defensive, such as Kyle Korver, and if you only have a little tight defense against him, his three-point shooting rate will drop by at least 10 percentage points. But Stephen Curry's breakthrough, compared to Rogan's crossover step, is almost like the difference in strength between a child walking and a world-class skater dancing on the ice. And no matter how strong Stephen Curry is, he can't shoot so many hollow three-pointers in the case of continuous fouls. Boss. Angelo Russell said heartily, your three-point shooting ability, I am really convinced, 100 times better than me. No, you are better than Stephen Curry. Logan smiled, Stephen Curry, but the hottest player in the league right now. He is the only all-vote MVP in history and has won MVP for 2 consecutive years. Honor is not all that Stephen Curry is all about, and his greatest achievement is to completely change the direction of the league's playing style, so that all teams find that the original three-pointer is not just an auxiliary, but can become a scoring weapon for the main style of play. The fact that everyone recognized that he could not win the championship by throwing 3 points was completely overturned by Stephen Curry. To be compared to Stephen Curry by Angelo Russell, you can imagine how much Angelo Russell now admires Logan. However, Angelo Russell immediately thought of the question, how Logan had not used this ability before. This is a question that has always plagued Angelo Russell. Your three-point shooting ability is better than Stephen Curry, and you don't shoot three-pointers in the game, keeping this technology for the new year. You know, Stephen Curry shoots 10 three-pointers per game and shoots more than 50% from the field. What is the concept of 10 three-pointers shooting more than 50%? This is the bottom of the 15 points to hand. Angelo Russell finally couldn't hold back and couldn't help but ask Rogan, boss, your 3 points are so good, why didn't you use it in the previous game? Logan smiled, this question is not easy to answer. Of course, he can't tell Angelo Russell the truth. What three-point ability is the ability of the system to open for 5 minutes Midorima Shintaro gave him to try. Angelo Russell, believe it or not, is a question. He may not even know who Midorima Shintaro is. Thinking of this, Logan frowned, counted his heart, and lied to Angelo Russell, because our Longwood defender line is full of talent. Logan told Angelo Russell, I want to play the inner line of the Dragon national team, so I sealed my three-point ability, but now that the team has won 20 consecutive times, I think my internal skills have also been achieved. And the three-point ability does not need to be sealed. It can be used. Angelo Russell listened and nodded. I relied on, actually sacrificed my three-point ability in order to cooperate with the national team. There are still such people in the world. Angelo Russell couldn't help but lament that Logan was a good man who worried about the country and the people, and Logan smiled in his heart. Boss. Angelo Russell said, so will you go back to the national team? What can we do when you're away? The Dragon Country national team hasn't summoned me yet. Logan said, maybe there are too many talents. There are several talents like me in the Dragon Country national team, such as the Great Demon King Zhou. The Great Demon King. Angelo Russell pondered, listening to this name, it must be very powerful. Logan couldn't help but laugh. Big Devil Zhou at the level of the NBA at most a 2-round show. Only the name sounds scary. Obviously, this playboy only cares about the bubble girl and does not know anything about the composition of the Dragon Country national team. But then again, an American, what is the need to know about the Dragon Country national men's basketball team? The current Longwood national team, where the guard line talent is abundant, and Logan said the complete opposite. The back line is directly the talent withering right. The veteran son you state of serious decline, only one defensive skill. The eldest nephew Gua Allen can only be in the domestic arena horizontal. As soon as he arrives at the international arena, he is beaten with a full head. On the contrary, the domestic line of the Dragon, as well as the veteran Yi Jianlian painstakingly supported, because Yi Jianlian at least has the strength of NBA rotation and even weak team starts, which is barely the world's quasi-first-class level. I understand one thing now. Angelo Russell said to Logan very seriously. Oh? Logan asked curiously, what's the matter? That is. Angelo Russell puffed up his cheeks and said, relying on the defense of me and Roar, I can't defend you at all. Logan smiled. The young man was very aware of his strength and positioning. He said, well, I allow you to use the appropriate foul action. If you don't shoot, I will lose. Episode 109. When Angelo Russell heard Logan's suggestion, he immediately shook his head wildly, saying that I could not do this. Foul? Angelo Russell shook his head. Fouls are absolutely not okay. Yo, actually do not take advantage of this. This young man is still quite ambitious. Logan said that I still appreciate the behavior of this young man. Angelo Russell, you make me impressed. If Logan knew what Angelo Russell was really thinking at this moment, he would surely be angry and vomit blood. In fact, Angelo Russell did not think this way in his heart. He felt that even if Logan allowed himself to foul, he would not be able to stop Logan. The young man is worthy of being a talented showman, and he has a very clear judgment on Logan's strength. He had already fouled Logan, but instead, his finger was almost cut off, and the foul would have an effect on Logan. To stop Logan, Angelo Russell frowned, and there was only one way to do it now. Only to hear Angelo Russell cough and say unhurriedly, I have a way to stop you. Do you want to try? I rubbed. There was really a way to restrain me. Logan smiled and said, what can you do to stop me? What violent foul this kind of can't be. Oh, This is a rogue plus a violation of sportsmanship. Of course not. Angelo Russell said cheekily, is it just a very ordinary and normal defensive method? Oh, what? Logan asked curiously. At this point, Rogan's curiosity was aroused, and it was not possible that Angelo Russell, like himself, hid some special abilities. No, it seems that Angelo Russell doesn't have this ability. It is impossible that at this moment, Angelo Russell suddenly became possessed by the crosser. This probability is too low. So, with Angelo Russell's currently very young ability, what tricks can he come up with to defend himself? Tell me about it. Logan became curious. I'm going to see if this method works. If I had told you, wouldn't it have been cracked by you soon? Angelo Russell pretended to be mysterious and said, you have to allow me to use this method, I will tell you, and it is absolutely not contrary to the ethics of sports. Good. Logan said boldly, as long as it doesn't violate the sportsmanship, I will allow you to use it. Good. Angelo Russell smiled happily, one word is enough. A gentleman's words are difficult to chase. Logan said he also pulled a little finger with Angelo Russell, only to see Angelo Russell pat the dust on his body, stand up, and then shake his fingers. It seems that Angelo Russell's fingers are really fine. Angelo Russell didn't continue defending Rogan, but walked to the sidelines. Strange, what did he do on the sidelines of the game? Logan thought to himself, is it to apply magnesium powder, and applying magnesium powder can affect himself? Just when Logan was curious to see how Angelo Russell was going to perform, he saw that Angelo Russell had already pulled Ingram, who had been watching the play, and said, this method is very simple, that is, add another person, and the three of us will defend you. With a thud, Logan fell to the ground on the spot. It was really not easy to scare Logan to the ground. In the NBA arena, no one has ever managed to shake Rogan, including top players like Chris Paul and Russell Westbrook. But now, Logan was actually intimidated by a rookie on the team. Logan quickly climbed up. I don't support the wall, I will obey you. Your method is indeed very simple, and it does not violate any work ethics, but it is also a very shameless method. And it is really what Angelo Russell can imagine. And this method also has a continuous upgrade version. 3 people can't do it. Do you still have to pull 4 people, 5 people together? After all, as long as you don't pull up 6 people, it is not a violation of sports ethics. But Logan was not afraid, but found Angelo Russell's proposal very interesting, saying, okay, then you 3 people go up together. Angelo Russell was ecstatic to hear this, and immediately pulled Ingram alongside to defend Rogan, while Dang still used his back defense. At this time, in the gymnasium of the Golden State Warriors, there are people who are doing the same thing as Rogan, playing three-pointers and defensive confrontations. There was a skinny figure that was constantly moving, constantly throwing three-pointers. His moving steps and breakthroughs, even if not as sharp and fast as Rogan's, can be seen as the top masters of the league. Opposite him was defending the league's most famous active forward, Kevin Durant. It seems that this is a bullfight in a training match. Even in training, Kevin Durant did not have the slightest plan to release the water, but carefully defended the man. Kevin Durant is as tall as 2 meters 1 or more. This person is thin, and his height is only about 1 meter 9, which is more than 20 centimeters shorter than Kevin Durant. Moreover, Kevin Durant's movements are extremely flexible, and it is not an exaggeration to say that he is the most powerful and flexible big man in the league. At the moment, Kevin Durant's defensive action is not in the slightest, and this serious attitude is no exaggeration compared to last year's Western Conference semifinals when he led the Oklahoma Thunder against the 73-win Golden State Warriors. Logically, every three-pointer of this person, because of the absolute advantage of height, Kevin Durant can easily cover it. Because this person's three-pointer, it seems that the starting height is neither high, the angle of the shot is not tricky, and it is a little worse than Rogan's three-pointer. But, for some reason, Kevin Durant has done his best, and even one can't be covered. The opponent's three-pointer is also something special, that is, a word fast, always a little time before Kevin Durant forms an effective block, so that Kevin Durant's powerful block fails. Then, with a hippie grin, he chewed on his braces and shook his head at Kevin Durant and said, "You need to be a little bit faster." Now in the training hall of the Golden State Warriors, this person is naturally a member of the Golden State Warriors. Whoever dares to speak to Kevin Durant with this attitude is only one person even for the Golden State Warriors. That, of course, is the big boss of the Golden State Warriors, the first three-point king in history, Stephen Curry. Episode 110. Ahem. Stephen Curry stopped shooting three-pointers, sighed slightly, and said, "It looks like Kevin, you can't prevent me alone." When he said this, he shook his head and chewed braces in his mouth, looking down on the other party, looking very hateful. But Kevin Durant knows that this is just a habit of Stephen Curry, and he doesn't really look down on the other side. Stephen Curry is a very interesting player. He can hardly stop for a moment. His whole body is always moving, so that he can keep his body, always in that state of excitement. Kevin Durant stopped and gasped, thinking that Stephen Curry's three-pointers were nothing special at all, how he just couldn't prevent it. However, it wasn't the first time he couldn't defend against such a three-pointer. In last year's Western Conference Finals, he also failed to defend against such three-pointers. In last year's game, as the Golden State Warriors sought to break the record of 73 wins in the regular season, they played too seriously, resulting in excessive physical exhaustion, and the state was simply stumbling in the playoffs. So in the Western Conference Finals, the Golden State Warriors actually faced a 3-1 deficit behind the Oklahoma Thunder led by Russell Westbrook and Kevin Durant. At one time, the media believed that this time it was going to burst out of the super cold, and it was the Oklahoma Thunder team that broke into the finals. Even Russell Westbrook and Kevin Durant felt they had a chance. At the time, they even spoke to the media that this time we want to avenge the one-shot revenge that was defeated by the Cleveland Cavaliers in the last finals. However, from the fifth game, the league's first three-point king and the only all-time MVP Stephen Curry took over the game. He killed the mighty Oklahoma Thunder with seemingly mundane three-pointers and kept equalizing. The score turned into 2-3, 3-3, 4-3, and finally the Golden State Warriors defeated the Oklahoma Thunder 7 and successfully reached the finals. Even though in the finals, due to various off-court factors, the Golden State Warriors eventually lost to the Cleveland Cavaliers, Stephen Curry's play was still remarkable. The worst person was Kevin Durant in that Western Conference Finals. His will to fight was completely crushed by Stephen Curry. Later in the game, the team's main point guard triple-doubles Russell Westbrook and defensive guard Oscar Robertson double-bagged Stephen Curry, but still unable to defend Stephen Curry. Stephen Curry's three-pointer blossomed everywhere in the court, as if he didn't need to care about time and space and the way he shot. Kevin Durant stepped forward to help, almost already 3-1, still unable to defend Stephen Curry. Stephen Curry is such an ordinary shot like today, but the speed of the shot is as fast as Kevin Durant cannot block. The NBA famously rule that any shot that needs to be received and then shot is invalid if there are only 0.3 seconds left in the game. There's no other reason than that, according to the test, the person who shot the fastest in the NBA league is Stephen Curry. Stephen Curry's shooting speed, only 0.4 seconds to be able to shoot, or with aim, is not the kind of brainless casual shooting. So much so that there was a time in Rogan's history line that everyone called for the fast hand to ask Stephen Curry to endorse them. Stephen Curry was certainly interested in the endorsement, but then it went away. Of course, this was all before Rogan's arrival, and Rogan's arrival was to break all records, including Stephen Curry's 0.4 second shot speed limit. At present, Logan has not really obtained the three-point ability of Shintaro Midorima, and he is still using the trial version. When it is officially possible to use Shintaro Midorima's three-point ability, it is estimated that the league will begin to test Rogan's shooting speed, which I believe will definitely exceed Stephen Curry. However, the fastest fast man in the league at present is Stephen Curry, the three-point king, Stephen Curry, who can give Kevin Durant a strong sense of oppression. From the moment he was eliminated by the Golden State Warriors, Kevin Durant had a strange feeling that as long as this person was in the West, he would never have a chance to reach the finals again. It has to be said that Kevin Durant's will to fight is still relatively weak. Someone even made up a paragraph about Michael Jordan, LeBron James, and Kevin Durant. It is said that there were hooligans who beat Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan went back to practice martial arts, beat the hooligans violently, and avenged the success of Snow Hate. Then some hooligans beat up LeBron James, and LeBron James did not go back to practice martial arts, but brought two brothers, Dwayne Wade and Chris Bosh, and beat up the hooligans. Then the rogue beat Kevin Durant, and Kevin Durant looked at his brother Russell Westbrook, threw himself on his knees, and said, "Please take me as a little brother." Of course, this is a paragraph, but it also shows that Kevin Durant really does not have the life of a big boss, nor does he have the responsibility of a big boss. So, Kevin Durant defected to Stephen Curry and his 73-win Golden State Warriors, which made it easy to win a championship, even if it was better to bear the insult of surrendering. The league saw Kevin Durant defect to the Golden State Warriors and couldn't help but start lamenting that the NBA finale was over. After all, this is the second highest small forward in the league, who has defected to a 73-win team, and this combination is simply terrible. However, this year, I did not expect to suddenly kill a Los Angeles Lakers led by Logan, which was simply out of the turmoil, and easily won 20 wins. And their 20-game winning streak was very easy, often clocking in the third quarter, much easier than last year's Golden State Warriors' stumbling 24-game winning streak. To tell the truth, Kevin Durant was more nervous than anyone else, and he ran to the Golden State Warriors to easily pick up the championship. If this is won by Logan's Los Angeles Lakers, who have risen to prominence this season, don't you want to be accused of throwing in the enemy in vain? Kevin Durant does not want to do this. So Kevin Durant's mood at this moment is really anxious, more anxious than the ants on the hot pot.